Welcome to Part of the Solution, because what the world really needed was another podcast, except for this one actually cuts through the noise. Hi, I'm Natalie, your coach, speaker, truth teller, and your favorite no BS friend. Around here, we're talking health, healing, habits, hormones, and how to finally grow a mindset that gets out of your own way. There's no filters, just real conversations that might actually change your life. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Part of the Solution podcast. This is my first episode for season 3, and I have Julie with us, and I'm just so excited. So instead of me trying to explain who you are and what you do and why people should know you, why don't you go ahead? So Julie, welcome to the show.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here and to have this conversation with you today. I just fell in love with you and your energy on Instagram. Really love the conversation that we got to have over there. So I am a high-performance coach and a psychedelic facilitator, and I used to be an attorney. I came to the practice of, first coaching to get to the root cause of my anxiety and depression. And when I felt like that was still really lingering for me, I pursued psychedelics for myself just so that I could heal it once and for all. And when I saw how effective it was and how also fast and sustainable it can be when paired with integration, and I was sharing about this journey online because for my online coaches out there, like that's a big part of it is just being, I think, transparent about what you're doing, not gatekeeping anything. I had this experience earlier this year where this woman went through this like dramatic weight loss. And this is kind of before like the GLP-1s were super big. And I was like, wow. And she positioned it almost like she manifested this weight loss. And then it comes out and she's like, oh no, I was using a GLP. And I'm like, that's fine. But don't tell me like I should buy your manifestation practice because you lost this weight when like you were doing that. And so I've always had that POV in my like how I present on the internet, and I'm very honest about what I do. So I was sharing about it and people came to me and were like, can you teach me how to microdose? And this was 4 years ago. And so that's how my practice really became my practice. And it's now evolved because for me and my own journey with psychedelics, at first it was that I just want to be less anxious. I just really like my mind is not a fun place to be. I want to break out of the cycle once and for all. But now the questions that I'm asking myself are a lot bigger. Like, what would it be like to live in limitless possibility? How good can it get? And so I realized, microdosing and just looking at treating our anxiety and depression is kind of like buying a Ferrari and just going to the grocery store. Like you really get to take the car out on the track. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm using it more for business owners, for C-suite, for people rising the corporate ladder of like, how can I use this as a nervous system regulation tool so that I can fully expand into where I want to go? So that's kind of like the evolution of my journey, but I'm super excited to talk today and just see what comes up.
So let's back up just a minute. So you were a lawyer. Mm-hmm. And you did, like, when you were going through school, like, had you always been somebody who felt like a little anxious or uncomfortable in your own skin or just anything like that? Like, or was this something that happened with like quite a serious job?
Oh, no one's ever asked me that, but that's such a good question because it would make total sense that someone had anxiety as a result of like going to law school and becoming a lawyer. Even law school is super competitive. Like I don't even feel like Legally Blonde did a full job of like really demonstrating how bad it is because in law school, you're graded on a curve. So you literally want someone else to do bad so you can do better. It's very cutthroat.
That makes no sense. Like that's God, us humans, we go about things in such the wrong way sometimes.
Well, it's also just the opposite of my personal highest core value is win-win. So to me, like, I don't believe I have won if I've had to undercut someone else to get ahead. And like, that's the whole thing that law school is based out of. So it's completely a disjointed experience for me from the jump, right? But great question. No one's ever asked. And the answer is no. So my dad died when I was little, like 6, very little. And that's all really like, my dad was my dad. My parents were together. He was present in my everyday life. And then he died. And, death is such an amorphous topic to like try to explain to a 6-year-old. And my mom, God love her, I really believe we're always doing the best we can with what we have. But she didn't like put me in therapy or I didn't talk to a grief counselor. And so I started experiencing the symptoms of like mental health issues at a young age. I had a really intense dissociation. And then that led all the way up into panic attacks in college and in law school. But I didn't have like the language, the lexicon to describe mental health. And sort of the way mental health was presented to me was like, if you're not contemplating ending your life, then you're not depressed. So I didn't feel like I had there was no room for me in the conversation around mental health. It wasn't until I was in law school. And you know that meme where the little dog is in the cafe and the cafe is on fire, but the dog's like, I'm fine.
Yes.
That was me my last year of law school. I ended this relationship with this guy I literally thought I was going to marry. I was losing the plot. And so I got into therapy. But I realized at that point, man, I've been struggling with mental health basically my entire life, but
Yeah.
it was really high functioning and I didn't know how to name it.
Yeah, since that first trauma, essentially. And for people listening who don't know, will you explain what dissociation means and what that meant for you?
Yeah. So I think the best broad way to explain it is not feeling like you and your body are one. There's a separation between you and your experience. And so for me, it was very almost cinematic looking back, but it would start to feel like Julie, myself, capital S or whatever, was shrinking back into my body. And so I would be feeling like I was in the movie theater of my body almost. And I could look out my eyes and I could see what was happening, but I was not driving the bus.
Yeah.
It felt I had me and my body were not one. Myself was in my body, but it didn't have control. And, that's really scary. If you're driving or something and you start to dissociate, it's oh my goodness. Obviously you want to get back into control of your body so you can control the car. Some people feel like they can look outside themselves, they're looking at themselves, but they're not in it. It's the POV changes depending on, your unique experience. There's not one flavor of anxiety. There's not one flavor of dissociation. But it's a disconnect between you and your body and you and your experience, essentially, right? I'm not in control of my experience, or this experience is happening to me, and it's very, very scary especially when you don't know what's happening.
Yeah. God, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So you graduated law school, and then what did that look like afterwards? And all the while you're still having these issues and processing this stuff. You started therapy. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I started therapy 3L year, and that was a real rough year for me and my mom because I felt like therapy was really re-traumatizing, and I felt like every single week she just wanted me to cry and talk about how my dad died, and then my mom didn't put me in therapy, and she messed me up, and I'm like, Deborah, that was her name. Deborah, do you want a cookie? I could tell you all this. I knew I was self-aware, right? I could have told you this was a problem, but the constant picking at the scab of my dad dying every single week. Right? It was really tough, and it led me to confronting my mom in this awful conversation. I remember she slapped me. I mean, I deserved it, but she slapped me. She had never hit me before. And it was just you're, the B word, I was just unleashing on her, right?
Yeah.
You're the reason everything is wrong with me. And so I eventually stopped therapy. I think it was good that I had the space to talk about it in a way that I had never talked about my dad dying before. But what was happening wasn't helpful. It was not helpful for me to think about the past and blame my mom for what went wrong. I wanted to know how to move forward, right? I think therapy gives you a good understanding of how we got here, but it does not necessarily help you form a plan to get to where you want to go. It
Yeah,
was
there's
not.
a plateau with traditional talk therapy that I've
Yes.
noticed.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what so many of my clients here too, or say to me too, right? So I had that big blowout with my mom. I was like, I want to move forward with my mom. This is not helping. She clearly, I feel one way. She does not feel that way. Whatever had happened, how can we move forward? One thing I got out of therapy was reading the book Codependent No More, which really helped. I definitely saw the ways that I was majorly codependent. My mom is sober. She's been sober my entire life and more. But, that doesn't necessarily fix all the other stuff that drove her to drink, right? So in certain ways, it was like living with someone who is an addict.
Yeah, you become a dry drunk or dry addict, and the behaviors don't change. You just don't drink anymore. And that is not true healing. That's not true recovery. But a lot of people get stuck in that for sure. I've seen that definitely in my experience. So you were having this major human experience, essentially grieving the loss of your dad 15 years later or 20 years later, but
Yeah.
all the while trying to process it, but maybe with, and no disrespect, but the emotional maturity of when you lost your dad, or, like some of you was still there. So talk to me a little bit about what it, how you started to go into the microdose, and like, did that lead you? Did this
Mm.
relationship lead you into wanting to explore that?
So, I mean, God, I wish I had found it sooner. I will say, like, after you finish law school, you have to pass the bar. So I was studying for the bar and I was like really excavating my emotional stuff for the first time ever. Just like you said, right? Like little 6-year-old me had never had the chance to emote in this way. And so it was like, I mean, I remember I was buying weighted blankets and just like trying to do anything to like, my nervous system was so dysregulated and I had not found microdosing yet, not even close. I really did like muscle through a lot of the work. And finding microdosing was like, yeah, 3 or 4 years after that, after, passing the bar, and I had practiced and I had done all these different practice areas, right? I was like, oh, maybe I'll just like law better when at the end, I practiced, I wanted to practice in special education law. That was a big turning point for me. So this East Coast firm said, we're going to open an office in LA. We want you to open the office, come take the California bar, and blah, blah, blah. So, I moved to San Diego because that's where I had more friends. I was like, I'll just be here and study for the bar. I'll take the bar and then I'll move up to LA. But, I was going to LA and meeting with the partners of the firm and like looking at different locations and all of this. And then I took the bar in February 2020 and the pandemic happened in March of 2020. And I passed the bar, but then the office was like, well, we're not going to open this office now. Like, we're in the middle of a pandemic. And I was like, okay, so then I gave the law one more shot. I practiced with an agency in San Diego that is amazing, and it serves survivors of human trafficking and helping them, because a lot of times victims of human trafficking, like, well, it's a very vicious cycle, right? But like their pimp essentially will like do something to make them be charged with a drug possession or prostitution or whatever, and then they have this mile-long record and they can't escape the cycle because they feel like I can't go anywhere because I'm a criminal.
Yeah.
So it's was very moving work, right? Obviously, like really made me feel good at the end of the day about the work that I was doing. But I was like, I don't like being a lawyer. And then I found this coaching certification. I was just listening to a podcast on my phone. And this woman said, hey, do you want to get certified to be a coach? And I just was like intuitively, yes, let's do it. So from there, it was not a very long journey until I found psychedelics. But that's really what started me like forward motion.
Yeah. Tell me about your first experience and like how you felt. Were you nervous? Like, do you have all the feelings that you think most people feel, just apprehensive, nervous, or did you just get a gut intuition, like a hit that was like, this is going to help me process things better, or
With
this is relief?
microdosing in particular or psychedelics generally?
Psychedelics.
Oh, so I was very, 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 very scared of psychedelics because I totally bought into Dare, right? I was like,
Yeah.
they're gonna scramble your brain, which looking back, I'm like, what does that even, that doesn't mean anything, right? Like that's a phrase with absolutely no impact. But I was very scared and I was still practicing. It was like maybe 2 years in, and a friend had said like she had such a positive experience with LSD and asked if I would want to like she was like, oh, this is like a half a tab or something. It'd be a weaker experience, but like I really like I trusted this friend and we were in a safe environment, and I was like, sure. So I took it and I had the best experience on LSD. I was just like, life is beautiful. I'm so grateful for things. Like everything felt alive. I was just like, it was nothing like you hear in the movies of, you're going to want to jump off a building and think you can fly, or you're going to like try to peel your face off. Like nothing
Yeah.
crazy like that. It was just one of the most beautiful, joyous experiences of my entire life. And I was like, that's what LSD is. Like, why do we act like it's so dangerous, right? So it's not like that was the tipping point and I just like completely slid down at all. Like it was another year plus before I ever did anything else, but it was just a really great first experience that like opened my eyes to seeing a lot of what I had heard and thought was wrong.
Yeah. And so then the year went by, and tell me about taking like doing the microdosing and then getting into it and knowing like, wait a minute, like I assume you had this aha moment of like, if I can feel better, then other women can feel better, or process or whatever. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so the next year, this all did happen in really quick succession. So I was running a nonprofit in LA. And we were working with a Colombian counterpart. So the woman who founded the nonprofit, she had asked me to come. She was from my coaching certification. She asked me to come run it. She was more of like a visionary, less of an executor. And like with my background in law, she was like, would you please come run this? Yeah, of course. So running this foundation, and she is really into the ayahuasca community. And so she said, hey, would you like to sit? I would love to like gift you this for all of your like your contribution to this organization. And I think because I had the positive experience with LSD, I was very open to ayahuasca, and it felt like a very natural, like, yes, I want to do this. There was no hesitation, no fear. And so I sat with ayahuasca and had a really beautiful, beautiful experience. It was super healing. So much goodness came out of it. And then less than a month later, the Colombian counterpart, he came to the United States. He's an expat. He's from Vegas. And so he's like, hey, we've connected on Zoom, but let's go grab dinner. And so we're chatting about all the things. And he said, I'm investing in this company. I would love your feedback. Will you come check it out with me? And I'm just one of those yes people. I didn't even ask what the company was. I was like, yeah, let's go see it. So we drive up and it's a mushroom like factory. I was like, what is this? He goes, well, I'm investing in this company and they're making microdoses, psilocybin microdoses. Here's some microdose capsules, like a month's supply. Let me know how you feel. And I was like, what? So like even in the LSD experience, right? Like I had a friend who was there who had already done it, and she like was like, okay, like this is what's going to happen. Like we're good. She even though she wasn't a facilitator, right? She led me through the experience. And then in ayahuasca, maybe not obviously, but there was a facilitator and there were, people there helping throughout the experience. But all he said was like, take one every day for 3 days and then don't take it for 2 days and just keep doing that for a month. And it was like, okay. I mean, there was no, real guidance. And so I'm one of those people who I want to know, like, what are we doing? What's happening? And so I started researching on my own. There's a lot of great resources from the Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies. It's called MAPS. It's one of the best organizations in the U.S. I read Michael Pollan, How to Change Your Mind, great book if anyone's interested. And I just started researching what's going on. And so I have a background in science, and so I found all these papers about psilocybin and the treatment of anxiety and depression. I was like, oh, interesting. So I'm reading, and what I'm seeing from the research is microdosing only works in the long term when you pair it with what the research calls intentional relearning, right? So I'm going to call that like a tool of transformation. So intentional relearning can be meditating. It can be something like problem solving, right? Like I've had a lot of people use microdosing to study for exams and things, but anything that's going to promote a new connection in your brain, right? So leading yourself through hypnosis. So I started doing, and I was trying all these different things. Like I was microdosing and taking myself through hypnosis. I was doing some deepest inner critic work. I was journaling, like I was just breath work, all of these things. And then I found what worked, and I'm sharing about all of this on the internet. And then 30 days, I don't know if the reel is even still on my page, but I made a reel my first 30 days microdosing and how amazing it was. And it truly was so amazing. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, I want this. And so it eventually became the focal point of my business, but that was not my intention.
Yeah, I was going to say that probably just organically happened.
Yeah.
Out of sharing your experience. But that's exactly what people want. They want to go, okay, she did it and she's not crazy and she doesn't look crazy or act crazy. So then I can do it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too, right? Where I think sometimes I was actually just thinking about this. I was sitting down to make some content earlier where we can kind of feel a little, I think psychedelics can sometimes give people the vibe you don't belong here. You have to be this person who, I don't know, never wears shoes and always wears a wide brimmed hat. And well, if you don't only strictly eat organic and do all these things, and you don't belong in our conversation. And that actually makes me really sad because this work is for everyone. And it's so it becomes really judgmental when I think the whole point of psychedelics is to learn to release judgment toward others and yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just the salt we put on our food, it just enhances what we're already trying to do. At least that's my take on it, it's not, I would never consider it like a hard drug or, and think about how many people drink alcohol or smoke cigarettes or vape or eat fast food. And, I don't think this is something people should be scared of or judge or say like only hippies do that or only boho people do that or whatever. Like, and you are part of that breaking the mold of like you're a business professional doing this, helping other business professionals. Like I love that. I think that's great.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I just I hope that some people don't feel like, well, I'm not spiritual enough or whatever for that. I mean, I love to watch The Real Housewives.
Yeah, I don't think you have to be. And I think a lot of those stereotypes or molds are being broken because people want a little bit of everything nowadays. I feel like we all want to be like a entrepreneur and a wife and a mom and make sourdough and be a professional and make bank and be a boss bitch. Like we all want to be a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I feel like life is, you were making friendship bracelets as a kid and your mom has the whole like bucket of different beads, right? And you pick out which beads you want on your bracelet. And so every bracelet is different. Every bracelet is unique to you, but it feels so often, whether it's in psychedelics or other things, like people seem to have rules for engagement. Well, you can't like pick this bead because you don't also have this one. And it's like, no, we don't want two bracelets to be the same bracelet, right? Like, I just wish everyone were more welcoming, but so many people are so exclusionary because they don't fit their mold that they want them to
Yeah.
fit.
Yeah. And those aren't necessarily our people.
No.
So, break down a little bit about a newbie's experience with somebody joins your program, they want to do microdosing, they've got some trauma to process like the rest of us, and they're worried about feeling high or feeling tired or not productive or like all of the fears that will creep up, myself included. For instance, like I have 15 plus years in sobriety, so microdosing to me seems scary. Is that a relapse? Is this a drug? Am I going to feel high from this or altered in a way that makes me uncomfortable? Like, can we talk about that? Like how you would engage with me?
Yeah, for sure. Is it okay if I use a particular client as an example? Because I think she's a really strong one.
Absolutely. Yeah.
She was so sweet. She was such a sweet woman, but she had gone through a really nasty divorce. She had two little kids, and she was running a super successful Pilates studio. And so she knew that she had some stuff to work through, and she could even see like, hey, I marry this guy because he treats me like my dad treats me, and like there was a lot there to unpack, right? But she did obviously have two littles, and custody was contentious in her divorce, so she didn't want to ever feel like she was under the influence because that could be used against her. And she had to go run the Pilates studio. So she was very freaked out, but she was really open to this work. And so what we ended up doing it's very common. Basically, we just always schedule a call for your first time. So I think it was like 11 in the morning, right? Her kids were at school. She didn't have to be to the studio until like 2. And so we got on a call and I was like, okay, so, I'm going to sit with you. We're going to take this at the beginning. I'm going to sit with you the full hour and then beyond. Like I'll be by my phone so you can telegram me or whatever should anything come up. But let's first set your intention. And so we talked about it. We talked about why she was doing this in general, what she would like to experience today, kind of where she was going to go after our call. And when I say go, I mean like, in our call where we're going to actually obviously have a coaching session. But then she's like, well, I really want to journal after the call and just kind of see what comes up for me. And so I was like, okay, cool. So she took it. And this was at the beginning, right? An hour passed. And I was like, so how do you feel? And she was like, I feel good. Like, I feel fine. I feel like a little bit, energized and I feel clear, but I'm going to go journal now. And it's like, okay, sounds good. So she didn't message me. I reached out to her. She's like, no, I'm great. It's fine. I have recently just had a woman as well. She was a nurse. And at first she was like, oh, well, I can't take it this day. I have to take it this day because this day I don't work. And I was like, okay, well, how about this? Why don't you take it on a day you don't work? And then get back to me, see how you feel, and we'll see if you feel okay microdosing, like, on your shift. She's like, "Oh, no, I
Because
feel
you
fine."
knew she was gonna be fine.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I also if anyone's like, "That's not how I felt," first of all, I'm sorry. I would never want anyone to feel anything because that's not true microdosing. Like, the whole point of microdosing is this phrase I didn't come up with, but it's transformation without intoxication. Right,
Yeah.
but what I would say is, like, your dose, either your product or your dose is not right. So I have 3 companies that I personally guarantee that I work with. So I know those companies are exactly what they say they are, like there's nothing added, etc. But I also start everyone on the lowest dose. The lowest dose, right? And so from there, if you're like, oh, I don't know, maybe I could bump it up a little bit, we can have that conversation. But I would rather have someone add on than try to take off.
Are there things you could add in or companies add into a microdose to enhance the experience?
So yes, and that's totally positive, right? So maybe you're like we're talking about functional mushrooms, reishi, lion's mane, cordyceps. I work one of the companies I work with, she's an herbalist as well. So she'll add like different things that yeah, they do enhance. But when I say like it's only contains mushrooms or it's exactly what it says it is, I'm just saying I don't know that I think a lot of the companies you see on Instagram or the people who sell stuff on Instagram, I don't know that it's always like mushroom or like I've had people say they felt really weird. Like who knows what's in those products? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The companies I work with, I know they're working with actual dried mushrooms.
Yes. Yeah. I've had a friend and she said that she felt so tired from taking them and she struggled with like taking them in the morning because it would make her so tired. And she said her facilitator was telling her like your body just needs rest. And then I have another friend and he was like, "Oh my god, I get energized, like I'm pumped up, I'm creative, I'm in flow state." So, do you think everybody's different or do you think the product are different or a mix of both?
A mix of both. So I would really like first I would always start at the product, right? Like if I know that someone ordered from one of my companies and I know they're like great product, then I would transition into the conversation of so I feel slightly more energized while I microdose, but I'm not someone I've never been diagnosed with ADHD or ADD and I know people who have normally feel like a little bit more calm with them or like a little bit brought down. So first of all, everybody is different. I can't tell you exactly how you're going to react, but I think that's fair a good call on the facilitator's part of saying, like, maybe your nervous system is really jacked up and you could use some more rest. And then I also say for my people who are tired at night, then just make your practice a nighttime practice. So I have a lot of moms in particular who, once the littles are asleep, they do microdose at night and then they'll do their skincare and they'll meditate before bed or like do their daily devotional or journal and they'll go to sleep and have a really restful night's sleep. Like, right, if we have for all my Whoop wearers or my Aura Ring babes, like they have really good night's sleep on it. So it's also like you have to know I also tell people the first time they do it, it's better to do it like 4 to 6 p.m. because if it makes you tired, maybe you'll just be like lazy that evening. But if it makes you awake, it's not gonna make you awake like at 10 p.m. when you wanna go to sleep, you know? So
Yeah.
like that's a safe time period to do it. But everybody is different, and I would wanna know what product they're using.
Yeah. And so when you're deciding who gets what product line and how much and dosing and all of that, I know you said you start everybody at the lowest dose, but how do you decide like I'm going to put her on this and I'm going to put him on this? Or is it just like everybody starts with this?
Oh, okay. So for some of my like DIY programs, there's all the ordering information in the email and I very clearly say like, "Hey, these capsules start at 200 milligrams. So those are probably best for someone who feels like they really have high tolerance or perhaps they have been on SSRIs for a long time or maybe feel like more treatment resistant depression. These 100 milligrams are a great place for most people to start blah blah blah. So for my like more DIY options, I give you enough information to make an empowered choice. And if anyone ever has a question, they just reply to the email and I'll point them in the right direction. For my like one-to-one babes or inside my incubator, that is definitely a conversation of like, okay, so tell me more information. And for my one-to-one, I send everyone their microdosing capsules, right? But for everyone else, it's like here are the ordering links and like you go ahead. So it
Oh,
really
so
depends.
people could just like order a la carte essentially.
Yeah, the only people who, like, I just think that's a nice experience for my one-to-ones that I,
Yeah.
like, send them right to their door, but everyone, for my DIY programs, it's like, here's that, and, like, you choose, and I give everyone all the links, right? So even my one-to-ones, like, once we're complete working together, they can keep ordering, and they have all the information. It's the same information. But that's also why I like to have just 3 companies, right? It's like, sometimes we get into a little bit of analysis paralysis, and, like, these are 3 amazing companies. I vetted them all. They're different, like, there's a variety of price points, so no one feels like that's too expensive or whatever, you know?
And then can people like, is there a limited time you should take it? Like, should you dose this and should people cycle these like other things? Like, you shouldn't take it for longer than 3 months or 6 months or, how do you cycle through?
Yep. So it's really best to follow a protocol for 30 days, like to start for 30 days. Honestly, if you're not following a protocol, if you're not following like that schedule of on and off days, you're probably not going to you're leaving money on the table essentially, right? For what the experience could be for you. I at most usually have people follow a schedule for 60 days. And that's for my like fibromyalgia babes or someone who is dealing with more of that treatment resistant depression. Technically, and some people say you can follow a microdosing protocol for 90 days. I think that's way too long. You will build up tolerance to psychedelics way faster than anything else. And what that means is even though you're not having an experiential effect, you're not getting the benefits in your brain anymore. So it's kind of just like you're swallowing a capsule and nothing's happening, right? So people are
Yeah.
like, I don't know, like it kind of lost its magic. It's like, yeah, because you did it too long without taking a break. And then if you're doing it for 90 days, you don't ever like let the dust settle. You don't have space to integrate, which is really like my whole thing is the integration piece. Because if you're microdosing, but you're not integrating, then you're not going to have the magic of microdosing become your everyday normal. You're going to feel like it is a crutch for you or something that you have to do in order to have a good day. My goal is that you have a good day regardless because you've like learned how to extract that goodness and take it with you.
What is an integration period? What does that mean?
Yeah, so an integration period is any time between a psychedelic experience where you're totally off, right? So a protocol is you're following like, a set of on and off days. So you're not microdosing every day. If anyone tells you they microdose every day, don't trust them. Like you should not, or you can. I mean, nothing bad is going to happen to you, but it's like people who say, they don't absorb their vitamins, right? Same
Yeah.
thing. You're not absorbing anything. So microdosing for on and off days. And then for a set amount of time, you are not microdosing at all and you're really focusing on, okay, so what did I like learn from this process? What were the things that I was able to do? Like what did I experience? Maybe it was, hey, my mind wasn't so loud. I wasn't so chatterboxy. Maybe I was more patient with my kids. Maybe I assumed less bad intentions on the part of other people. And I noticed like I'm someone who really thinks negatively and assumes the worst in a lot of people. Okay, cool. So you notice all the things that microdosing gave you, and then you make a conscious effort to embody those changes in your day-to-day life. Because at the end of the day, what's happening when we use psychedelics is like basically a helicopter takes us to the top of the mountain, right? And it shows us how good everything is. Beautiful. But at the end of the day, the helicopter will put you back down at the bottom of the mountain and say, now it's your job to climb it there. And I think for a lot of people, like this is how I felt when I started using psychedelics. I didn't know that it was possible for my mind not to be so loud. I didn't know that it was possible for me not to have apocalyptic thinking or rumination or looping or obsessive thoughts, right? I didn't know a life without it. And once I saw it was possible and I knew that I could access it, it was my job to access it more frequently until it became my everyday way of being.
Yeah, I was going to say until it's a habit.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anybody who shouldn't microdose?
Yes. um,
Tell me about those people.
yeah. So well, first of all, I mean, it kind of just going off of what we said, right? If you're not willing to do the work, if you're looking for some magic pill that's like just going to fix your life, not for you, because it really is a collaborative process, or you're going to feel like you need to take it all the time every day. And again, then it's going to lose its effectiveness. And you're like, this doesn't work. It's like, no, you just didn't do it in the, I hate to say right or wrong, but I'm going to say it like the right way. So for people, microdosing can produce more entropy, more neuroplasticity in your brain, but that's great for people who experience ADHD, anxiety, depression, OCD, addiction, PTSD, because those brains have low neuroplasticity, no low neuromodulation. But for brains with like schizophrenia or a family history of schizophrenia, experiences with psychosis, bipolar disorder with episodes of mania, there's too much neuroplasticity. Like there's too much entropy in there already. So we don't want to add more. That's not a good fit. And honestly, I think just one of my biggest like red flags, green flags, and working with people is people who are ready to take radical responsibility over their life, right? That was definitely my journey. I had to put down, my mom messed me up and put on, okay, but you're 24. So it's your responsibility to now deal with those consequences and create your life from an empowered state accordingly and stop waiting for someone to come rescue you.
Yeah, so that victim mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about any like contraindications with medication? Like
Yes.
prescription medication?
Yep. So that's always a big conversation because ultimately serotonin syndrome is something that could happen. It's more likely to happen for someone who's taking a large dose of psilocybin and also has some sort of comorbidity like kidney disease or something, right? But serotonin syndrome
What is
essentially
that?
is the result of too much serotonin in our brain. So if you are taking a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, an SSRI, and it's, promoting more serotonin production, and you're taking psilocybin. So psilocybin and serotonin, they're both tryptophans. They have the same chemical structure. They're not the same chemical, obviously, but they have the same chemical structure, right? And they both bind at the same receptor. It's the 5-HT2A receptor in our brain. So if we get too much of that in there, there's an overflow. That's not good. But again, that's more of an issue when you're taking a larger dose and you're on SSRIs versus microdosing. But what I will say for microdosing and being on an SSRI, my sort of like specialty, something I love to do is help people titrate off of unwanted medications. But people technically can safely microdose while on an SSRI. But what I like to say is like, it's just not going to be as effective. And like, that's not me spouting off, like that's in the research.
And that's like an antidepressant?
Yeah.
Is that what that is? Okay.
Well, there's a lot of, SSRIs, Lexapro, Prozac. God, you think I could name them all, but I'm thinking of one now that's an SNRI. But yeah, I mean, it's very easy to Google the name of your medication and see if it's an SSRI, an SNRI, a barbiturate, etc.
And as far as all of those, like, are those the only kind of red flags?
I tend to not work with people who are either on like a Klonopin, a Xanax, and unwilling to get off of them, because those things it's like alcohol. It numbs your experience. And with microdosing, what psychedelics are meant to do is help you engage with your emotions in a safer way, right? So I just worked with someone this summer who had been on Klonopin for years after her brother really suddenly passed. And she wanted to get off of Klonopin. And when she got off of it and started microdosing, she was like, wow, I think I would have felt better so much sooner if I had just felt what was there instead of masking it all these years. And Klonopin I actually really want to applaud her. It's very hard to get off. It's not an easy one.
Is that a barbiturate?
What is Klonopin?
I'm pretty sure that's a barbiturate. Yeah.
So Klonopin, Xanax, I mean, benzodiazepine.
Yeah.
So, So, I mean, all of those, like, if you don't want to feel your feelings, like, microdosing also probably isn't for you.
Yeah. So when somebody's integrating, obviously you're not with them physically, you're with them on Zoom or, whatever, online. What is that day or what does that look like for them? Are they typically having a good experience? Like, are you available as a coach? Like, do people ever have bad experiences, or do people start to really process their grief or trauma? And that's always uncomfortable when you dig up your past and you dig up the shit. And then that gets uncomfortable. And a lot of people want to jump ship. I know, just in traditional like therapy methods, or like when I've coached women, like that's when they want to bail because it's uncomfortable. Like, do you have to have those moments with them, or does this essentially help guide them through those uncomfortable moments?
Yeah. So the amount of like one-to-one coaching or real life coaching that happens really depends on which offer you choose, right? Because I have totally like DIY opportunities that set you up for integration, but that I'm not like, that's just not what the offer was there for, right? Versus like one-to-one coaching while you're integrating. Yeah, we still have calls. Like you can still telegram me. And I also like to say like integration throughout everything, it's about intention, right? It's intentional time that you spend really asking yourself these questions, pairing it with certain practice. So, your integration looks at like however much time you can delegate to it, either like a certain amount of times per week or daily, etc. And that's really part of that, like those larger experiences, whether it's in my incubator or in my one-to-one coaching of like setting up your integration particular to you. And when it comes to like how it feels, what I normally see for people, and I like to make this like sort of funnel analogy, but like an upside down funnel. When you're first doing it, like we're kicking up a lot of dust, right? It is, like you said, it's uncomfortable, right? But the more that we do it, the more periods and like protocols you go through, it does start to get lighter and feel more manageable and more doable. And I'm not going to say you're never going to have another sticky experience, right? Because healing isn't linear. It like you're like, oh no, I'm doing great, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, my grandma said that to me when I was 7. Man, that sucked. You're like, why is this bothering me now? Well, you finally had the safety for it to come up. But I remember a woman that I was working with, her first integration period, she remembered getting sexually assaulted in college. And that was something she had like not allowed herself to think about for years because she was drunk and she had a lot of guilt about it. And like she was renegotiating her relationship with alcohol. And it was like, it was really tough for her. But, I really applauded her because she had obviously created enough safety within herself to allow that to come up and to be processed and be felt and be dealt with. And then the next integration period, the next month, she was like, wow, like, thank God that got easier. I'm doing a lot
Yeah.
better. I was like, yeah, like, I'm so happy for you, babe. But it's not necessarily it only ever gets better and better. But I will say it usually, definitely 1 to 2 can get a lot better.
Absolutely. Well, I think processing your trauma in any way, it's going to get better and better the more you bring it up, the more you work through it, you talk about it, you meditate, you journal, whatever your modalities are, it's going to get better. And let's talk a little bit about like what that like resourced woman looks like for you and your business. Like somebody who finishes the program, they've made the breakthroughs, like who are they? What do they look like? What are they doing?
Ooh, like at the end of working together?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go with one of the women I just worked with because hers was so exciting. So when she came to me, she's an engineer, but she could not pass one of her engineering exams. Like she took it like 5 times and it was just not happening for her. And it made her feel so bad, right? She was like, I have this great job in this firm, but like this test it's stopping me from getting my professional designation, kind of like lawyers or doctors, whatever, have to pass their boards. And man, she was just struggling. She also was in a relationship with this guy and she really loved him. But there were just things that, they weren't for her, right? And so when we first started microdosing together, she saw a lot of great results from one of my DIY programs, Unbreakable, right? And she was like, okay, the next step, I want to use this to study for my engineering exam. Okay, so she signed up, we did 1-to-1, and then we created a custom studying plan for her to use microdosing. And I really like test taking and things. I've taken a lot of tests, so I helped her create like different learning strategies. Okay, cool. So she finally passed her engineering exam, and she had broken up with this guy, not from a place of like, wasn't a manipulation tactic, right? It was not like trying to get him to do anything, but she was like, we've had this discussion. Nothing seems to be changing. Like, this isn't serving me. I'm going to leave, right? And so she didn't speak with him and they were not together for months. And he came back, thought about our conversation. They got back together. The relationship went really well. They decided to move in together. And now she's gotten approached to be on track to be in the C-suite of her engineering firm. And I also helped her with her business school application. So she just got into Carnegie Mellon's business school and will be doing that part-time while working. She managed she's a structural engineer and she does underwater dives. She had a really busy dive schedule. And we just made sure the energetic agreements of her life. I like that word better than boundaries. Like the energetic agreements of what are and what are not acceptable to her, like her whole life shifted. And so I'm so freaking happy. Oh, and the biggest thing, well, maybe not the biggest, but this was exciting to me. She decided to create a digital product and start selling on the internet as a second form of income. And so to see her posting so consistently, like making sales and having this my little entrepreneur heart also always wants someone to find
Yeah.
another source of income. Like, I don't care if you leave your job, but it's just so nice to have something else, right? So yeah, that was a great success story.
That's awesome. That must feel so validating for you.
It does. I mean, here's the thing. Like, it worked really well for me and it was fast and it was sustainable when it integrated and it completely changed my life. But if I'm the only one who can say that, does it really matter? I mean, it matters to me, right? But when I can see other people, and that's just one of many, right? It's okay, I know that the work that I'm doing works and that it's impactful.
Yeah. Well, and that's the benefit of the business, personally and professionally.
Yeah.
So let's wrap it up. And I just want you to go through really quickly again, what it is that you offer, not the guarantees, but what you hope women process and transform into from working with you, and then what programs you offer directly.
Yeah, okay. I think there are kind of 3 different people. Some people they're either entrepreneurs, they're C-suite, or they're like climbing the corporate ladder and they're really looking to do it in a regulated way, in a way of like doing the inner work, because a strategy can only get you so far, right? I think that's what we oftentimes see. So they like signed up to do all these things and implement these next steps, and the steps are good, but they don't have the space to hold it. They don't have the safety to hold it in their bodies. And so those are the women that I work with inside of my incubator, Limitless Woman. And that is really to like get you to your next level in a way that feels really good, that's in accordance with your values. That's my whole thing, right? There's a million ways to get to the destination, but does it reflect, is it in coherence with what's important to you? And that's what oftentimes so like happens to people. It's like, I did the thing, but it sucked because it didn't reflect this value, right? Okay, beautiful. My one-to-one work, some people just don't like groups. So I have the people who are like the biz babes that don't like groups, that want to do the same kind of work as an incubator, but just privately. But I also have like, I'm just starting to work with an awesome woman who had a really bad, not a really bad divorce, had a bad divorce. You know, she has some attachment style issues. She's gone to like EMDR. She's done all sorts of things and it's just not working. And she's ready to use microdosing as this tool of transformation to heal the root cause of her anxiety and her attachment issues. Beautiful. That's one-to-one. So it can be someone who is looking for that personalized guidance and support, also really wants to have like, go deep, right? And go very bespoke to what's going on with her. Or my biz babes who don't like the group. And then one of my best, I love it so much. It's called Unbreakable. It's a DIY microdosing program. Every day for 30 days, you receive a text. It tells you when to microdose, when not to microdose, what to pair it with. There's like articles that expand with journal prompts inside of it. It's very comprehensive. It's great. People see a lot of change with it in just 30 days. So there's people who are just like curious and want to get started. There's people who are really ready to jump in. Then we didn't talk about it, but I do offer retreats as well for anyone who's wanting to experience a larger dose, but in a safe, guided, intentional setting.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about retreats.
I love retreats because I love meeting people in real life. The international ones are LSD and psilocybin. The domestic ones are psilocybin only. They are a full dose, so that can range anywhere from 2 grams. So the most I've ever had someone take is like a hero's dose, which is 5 grams. And retreats are not just the experience themselves. There's a whole month of integration afterwards. Because again, integration is my main focus. It's never like, here, just take this and then try to figure it out. No. There's also breath work. There's a day of play because that's a big one of my core values as well, joy. And there's integration exercises and they're small. They're 5 to 6 women because I want you to feel comfortable with your group and I want you to feel like, you know, I know you. I mean, there's this big retreat in Costa Rica for ayahuasca and it's like 60 to 70 people a session. And I'm like, that's my nightmare.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. So I do them about every other month, but they're truly a beautiful experience.
And you go out of the country for those or both?
Both. So out of country is LSD and psilocybin. I do some in the US, but those are only psilocybin.
And then where do you go out of the country?
This year we're going to Mexico in May. And those are more geared toward either like my business babes or like my creative cuties, like someone who wants to birth like a project. Because LSD, I would say psilocybin is medicine for the heart and LSD is medicine for the brain. So it really is like the people who are trying to figure out the next level or clear next steps for something.
And then what about in the States? Like if somebody wanted to come to yours and they couldn't go to Costa Rica or Mexico or, you know, wherever they're having them.
And they were interested in the LSD journey. I mean, that's the thing in my private, like in my one-to-one, I do facilitate like virtual experiences for people if that's something that they're interested in. Or in my VIP in my incubator, that's something that I offer all the women is a guided virtual experience where I set you up with everything. Like you can unmute yourself at any point throughout the day. I'm on the computer with you. So like you're very much safe, but you're not in person.
Yeah, I've had several women in my business ask about that. So it's good to have a reference and maybe possibly a referral because I don't know anything about that. I'm like, I have no idea. I Google it, chat it. I'm not sure how to find that person, but that is good to know. And it's good to have options for women. So because everybody, like you said, is different, are going to have a different level of what they're looking for, what they want. Do they want to tiptoe in? Do they want to dive in? Like, it's so wonderful that you kind of offer any and all of that for people.
Yeah, I mean, I also definitely have people who like book private experiences. Like I've had this as an alternative bachelorette or business lady, like women in business together who like do their own little mini retreat and had me come facilitate. So it's like say everything is possible, anything is possible. And it's like, I don't do like, for instance, I don't facilitate ayahuasca. I know where to point you like in the right direction.
Yeah, no, I think that's so awesome. I would have never thought to have done that for bachelor or a ladies weekend or anything like that. I'm co-hosting a retreat in March with a girlfriend, and it's going to be basically based on, we're going to call it the well resource woman. So we're going to talk about hormone functions, kind of the midlife, like hormone functions, nutrition, mindset, and how that all plays a role. But how fun would it be to have somebody like you there at some point at one of the retreats as like a specialty or a VIP or just a different type of retreat where somebody could have a more intense is the wrong word, but intentional, like a deeper experience.
Yeah.
What a great afterthought. You've given me things to think about.
Well, I mean,
Awesome.
even just microdosing with those experiences would be really powerful as well.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Julie. Thank you for letting me pick your brain and basically find out things for myself. That is why I started this podcast selfishly, was to find out information and educate myself and hopefully educate other people who are interested in the same thing.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was a really cool conversation. I loved your questions, and yeah, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So where can people find you if they're interested?
Well, if you're already listening to this podcast and you're like, I like podcasts, I have an experimental podcast. It's called The Inner Trip 365 Days with Plant Medicine. And it's taking you through my intentional use of plant medicine for a whole year, kind of maxing out my use like we talked about. Obviously, I have to take breaks for integration, but if I took my necessary breaks and, saw how far it could go, what that would look like. But you can also find me on Instagram. I'm on Instagram at JuliCyvonne, or same thing for my website, juliecyvonne.com. You can ask me a question. I answer my own DMs. I'm super happy to chat about it. And if you're interested in learning whether microdosing could be right for you, you can DM me the word journey and my really quick quiz will send right over to you. Or if you message me and you use the word journey in your text, just know you're going to get the quiz sent to you anyway.
Exactly. That has happened.
Yeah.
Okay. And so one last thing, I just feel like I just really want women, anybody listening, to know that you can, in fact, still do this and you can still be a mom. You can still be a professional. You can cook dinner every night. You can drive a car. You can run a successful 7-8 figure business. Like, you can still be you. There's just moments or times where you're enhanced, or what would be the right way to say that to really just seal it up with a bow?
Well, first of all, yes, thank you so much. It's truly self-perceptual, so you can do all the things that you mentioned and more. What I like to say is that microdosing helps you add a little sparkle throughout your day, meaning like maybe there's a beautiful tree in your backyard and it's there every day, but do you always appreciate it? It adds more of those feelings of awe, appreciation, and wonder, not with a feeling, where you're incapacitated in any way or inebriated in any way, but simply like a true grounded gratitude for how beautiful life already is that you just have not been appreciating.
Yeah. So it just enhances things that you're not even looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. All right, Julie, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.